66 million years ago, a dinosaur's forelimbs suddenly gave out, and then it crashed heavily onto the beach. For this 70-year-old Alamosaurus, life had come to an end. However, the death of such a giant dinosaur always triggered a terrifying bloodbath. By the next morning, a group of Troodons had already picked up the scent and arrived. Troodons were among the smartest dinosaurs, so they often got the first opportunity. But the dead Alamosaurus was 50 meters long and weighed a staggering 100 tons, meaning its skin was a full 7 centimeters thick, far too tough for Troodons to tear open. That meant it was time for a dinosaur with real power to step in, and that dinosaur was the infamous Tyrannosaurus Rex, the predator that struck fear into all others. As the land's top carnivore, its 15-centimeter-long teeth could rip through any carbon-based body. The clever Troodons still didn't want to give up, but the T-Rex never shared its meals. It immediately drove them off, determined to keep the feast for itself. However, the death of a 30-meter-long dinosaur naturally attracted even more predators. Enter Quetzalcoatlus, the undisputed ruler of the Cretaceous skies, with a sharp beak measuring 1.8 meters alone and a wingspan stretching 12 meters. From the air, it could challenge any creature, even the T-Rex. If the Tyrannosaur wasn't careful and took a peck to the eye, it would end up half blind. A single Quetzalcoatlus wouldn't usually force the T-Rex to back down, but this time it had company. Soon, a second Quetzalcoatlus arrived. And now, facing two opponents, the T-Rex was in serious trouble. A fight was inevitable. Despite their numbers, the Quetzalcoatlus pair avoided direct combat, using their aerial advantage to harass the T-Rex from above. Since the T-Rex couldn't fly, it had no way to counterattack. In the end, the frustrated tyrant had no choice but to retreat. This time, it had only lost due to the open terrain, but next time might be different. Now, the two pterosaurs could eat their fill. But that T-Rex wasn't about to give up. It had learned its lesson and went home to fetch its mate before heading into the forest. With two T-Rexes hunting together, the danger wasn't just doubled, it was a game changer. Yet they didn't grow overconfident. Skilled hunters always stay humble. The nearby Triceratops herd might have been delicious, but they were formidable opponents, so the T-Rexes needed a perfect plan. Night fell quickly, and the two T-Rexes began to stir. Thanks to their stereoscopic vision, darkness was no obstacle. To them, night and day were the same. Despite their massive size, thick footpads allowed them to move almost silently, making them terrifying nocturnal hunters. This time, their targets were a group of Edmontosaurus. While these dinosaurs lacked strong defenses, they were nearly as large as the T-Rex and twice as fast, meaning the predators had only one chance to strike. The pair had hunted together countless times, so they took their positions flawlessly. The Edmontosaurus family kept sentries on watch while resting, so one T-Rex deliberately made noise to lure the lookout away, while the other slipped into the herd unseen. Despite their caution, the Edmontosaurus failed to detect the hunters, and that's when the killing began. The male T-Rex burst forward, sending the herd into a panicked stampede. One Edmontosaurus, however, ran straight into the trap, forced to flee in the direction the T-Rexes had planned. The female knew it was time to strike. The prey had no time to react or escape. Within moments, the two T-Rexes had brought it down. Clearly, two T-Rexes hunting together had a terrifyingly high success rate, but the story was just beginning. With their bellies full, they still had important business to attend to. The next morning, the pair got to work. A small grove provided perfect shade from the heat, and there, hidden under the trees, they quietly fulfilled their duty to reproduce. Sometime later, the female successfully laid her eggs. What might have seemed like a heartwarming love story took a darker turn. One day, the male T-Rex appeared by the sea. Despite their massive size, their hollow air-filled bones made them surprisingly strong swimmers, but the female was nowhere to be seen. Once the eggs hatched, she had left, leaving the male to raise their 5 hatchlings alone. To feed them, the father led them to a nearby island, the young struggling to keep up. But in this age of giants, the ocean had its own apex predators. The T-Rex's sharp instincts detected danger, and it immediately looked down into the water. A massive Hoffman's mosasaur was approaching. This was bad. An adult T-Rex might have stood a chance against a mosasaur, even in the water. But with 5 vulnerable young, it had no choice but to swim faster. The hatchlings didn't understand why their father was speeding up, but they paddled desperately to follow. The hatchlings didn't understand why their father was speeding up, but they paddled desperately to follow. The smallest one, however, began to tire, and that spelled disaster. The T-Rex father kept glancing back, watching as the mosasaur closed in. Just as they were about to reach land, the mosasaur struck. When the father turned around again, one of his children was gone. There was nothing he could do. This was the ocean. On land, even 10 mosasaurs wouldn't stand a chance against him. But in nature's cruel design, only about a third of a T-Rex's 15 hatchlings typically survived their first year. Such was the mysterious law of the wild.